So in recap, we're really starting session one. I'm going to go through first the who, what, where, why, how, and when of what this is, right? Ultimately, what I want you to be thinking is what I was thinking when I wrote this was, what does it mean to live an inspired life? That was the overriding vision in my mind when I was doing this a few months ago, cleaning it up from the first round. So this is round two. And at this, I've done an expansion. So ultimately, who am I? I am Dr. Stephanie Rimka. I have been in private practice, primarily focusing on brain disorders, mental health issues. So I'm a business owner. I've had 6 brick and mortar practices and an online practice. I'm a self-made person. I am an entrepreneur. I've done many different things. I have failed at some. I've been successful at others. And I'm someone who fell in love with network marketing over the last several years, really not only for the incredible income it's given me, because it has, and an incredible time freedom it's been able to afford me. It's giving me an opportunity to not trade my hours for dollars as much as I do in private practice. But it's really what I like most about it. And it's like sometimes embarrassing for me to admit it. I've really met some of the most incredible people I've ever met. And some of my best friends and best relationships have come from this industry. And what I love most about it and realize what I like about it and why I keep coming back, it's the game that of I see everything like a game, but this is a game, and I'm obsessed with the game of helping people. And so it allows me to help others in a personal development avenue where I get to see an expression of their aliveness and their fun and their income. And I can play really freely in that area without worrying about me exchanging money for appointments and any of that. It's just I'm only winning if you're winning. So how can I help you win? And that's super fun for me. So what is it? This is a course, okay? And it's going to be a co-creation, like a participation of you and me together here on these Zooms, as well as in this group chat. I'm calling it the CHIP Self Leadership Training, okay? Because all leadership begins with, can you lead yourself first? CHIP stands for CHIP, Connection and Heart, Ignite Prosperity. So what that is a personal development course designed to help you build wealth through authentic relationships and inspired self-leadership. Why am I doing it? Ultimately, I like to do this anyway. But in particular, there's been a shift and an upgrade to it, and it is named after my recently passed partner in crime and life, a man with 30 years of network marketing experience who earned millions in the industry, including being over $1 million in a year. So being a 7-figure earner is like a definite badge of honor we get once you get there. And he taught me how to do it too. So he did many things, but he taught. So the word connection to me is what I think of with Chip. He helped me see why connection was so important. He helped me see myself better than I even thought I was and could see things that I didn't see. He helped me see the value of connecting with others in a way that I didn't understand. I thought I did it. I could do it some ways, but I didn't see it in other ways, right? I think I in particularly bring a lot of the heart aspect into it. And inspiration is something we both did. And he taught me abundance and prosperity in a very unique way. He helped heal a lot of money trauma that I've been working on for a really long time, just being in his frequency and his resonance. So I hope I can honor his name and what he brought into my life from network marketing and much more in a way that only I can. I'm not reproducing him. I am definitely, this is my energy and my course, but I hope I can transmute his heart and his energy with mine to serve you. So that is the whys, because ultimately the better you are, the better the world is, and the better my business is ultimately. So I'm unselfishly, it's selfish for me to unselfishly teach you. How about that? Okay. How are we going to do it? We're going to do it via Zooms, and then recordings are uploaded to a YouTube playlist. We will also have a group messenger chat. When will we do it? I am not going to provide a set schedule. Communication about when the calls will be announced are going to happen inside that group messenger chat. I won't send emails or texts either. All right. All right. So here's what I'm going to set the stage for what we're going to be doing. This session 1 is the longest and hardest, I'm going to say. So in this learning, this is the worst news probably. I want you to expect to do 2 to 3 hours of self-reflection exercises after the session. Many of you might get it done in an hour. The more you know thyself, the faster this will be. The more you lie to yourself about who you really are and what you really like and what you really do, the harder and longer this is going to be for you. And we all do that. We all think we know what we want or who we are or what we like. And then I'm going to explain to you the difference between fantasy and reality. And I think many people are not getting the results in life that they want because they're choosing to live in a fantasy about what they think they want or who they want to be. And so they're always frustrated with themselves instead of claiming who they are and loving themselves right where they are. And because of that, they actually don't even see how winning and beautiful and successful they are already. So this whole process is going to be about that. And this is just one exercise that's going to lay the groundwork. We will have other ones. None of them should be this long. All right. So after the session, you're going to be writing this stuff down. So you might want to do it in one block of time, and you might want to slowly work on it over a couple weeks. So the next session is probably going to be about 3 weeks away, but I will be in the chat to be helping and monitoring. So I want to give people time, right? And everybody figuring it out. Sometimes you might want to go to it. Some things I might say might take you a day or two to go, oh, I never even thought about that. Or you're going to be a little confronted maybe because again, sometimes lying to yourself is such an ingrained thing that was taught to you for decades. That was what you're supposed to do, and stopping doing it feels disrespectful maybe to your mother. So lots of stories are going to come up in this process. So I'm just letting you know it's all very normal. Although this is not group therapy, as I said, those are the things you can talk about. Like in the chat, you can say, wow, I had this insight. The chat will be for insights. Like, I had this great insight about myself. I realized I did this. Now I learned that. If it's I was here and I learned that, the shared learning is not group therapy. It's not complaining. That will help people. They'll recognize themselves in that in you, I think. So that's what I do, and I want things to look at that. Most every other session is going to be 5 minutes a day of homework, let's say, so to speak. So again, I do want you to connect in the chat and feel comfortable making friends, and you can get on small Zooms with each other. If you get this and you're like, okay, I've been working on this for a week and I'm struggling on this. Does anybody want to get on a Zoom with me? Do we want to like, people can do that. Hey, I've got time. I'm on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. I want to do a Zoom in an hour. Here's my link. And you guys can go off on Zoom and help each other. That's what I hope will happen. And that'll also help with excessive back and forth in the chats, because that can be overwhelming for some people, right? So if two of you are having a private conversation, 30 comments back and forth, that's more appropriate to take somewhere else, right? And I say you messenger, you call each other on Messenger, get on Zooms, that kind of thing. All right. So what are we learning? What we're going to learn overall in this whole process is we're going to learn to master the art of manifestation, of creating your own reality. So what I'm going to be teaching is that what you think about, visualize, affirm, feel, act upon, and persist in becomes your destiny. Right now, you're here in this leadership development program for your own unique reasons. Your hopes, dreams, wishes, and desires are yours and yours alone. And they are not right or wrong or better or worse than someone else. I'll give some examples, but I'll just say this. Not everybody is here to care about world peace. You don't need to pick up that baton. It's okay to just want to have a beautiful family and time with them. Like, that's that doesn't make you less than someone else who's committed to something else. So we do a lot of that. And sometimes the bigness of some people's ideas makes other people feel less than. And that is what I'm going to work very hard to help you see is what's been really holding you back. 2, I want each of us to deeply practice learning to live in our own authentic journey. If you're trying to live to please or impress anyone except yourself, you will begin to live a very inauthentic life. Really, the greatest thief of living inauthentically is comparing yourself to someone besides who you were yesterday, right? So I'm okay if you compare, but it better be comparing yourself to yourself. That's it. If you are comparing yourself to anyone else besides your former version of yourself, it is really just simply feedback for you that you are not living from allowing your soul to drive your values and behaviors. The soul is never judging and comparing. The soul is fine. The soul is highly postured, let's say. Soul doesn't need anybody's approval. Soul don't care because the soul knows what it knows and it's ready to go. It's got it. So if those things are coming up, it's letting you know there's some incongruency. And to me, the definition of authenticity, it means the soul is embodied and driving forward. That's what that means, right? So I want you to start giving yourself more permission, just right here, to pursue what's truly in your heart, right? That means what's most meaningful to you. And that is really soul guided. You are a highly individualized soul. None of us should have the same wants, desires, and dreams. And that would be how boring, right? So the soul really is the state of unconditional love for what you're doing. And the soul is really the most authentic, integrated you, and the most, also, just so you know, to me, it's neurologically the most medial prefrontal cortex guided action. So there's real like neurology to how this happens. And I can see a brain map and I can see it on somebody like, oh, wow, look how integrated and soul driven and spiritual they are. You can see it. And you can see, wow, look how disconnected from sense of self that person is. It's right there, which is really fascinating. 3, I'm just overviewing what we're going to do in the course. I'm going to help you discover, hopefully, your current values, right? This is the thing that's going to take some time. This is going to be the long homework we're going to do. And it's going to take some honesty about facts, not fantasy. 4, changing your values, if desired, doesn't mean you have to. It's only if you want to, okay? That can actually, if you want to do that, you can then start creating a life that you may be fantasizing about instead of valuing. I will explain this over time, okay? So here's the homework. It's how to discover your current values. And as I go through these 13 questions, I got this, I didn't make these up. This was from training I took with Dr. DeMartini. I started training with him. I took my first course in school. So I was probably 22, God, I was 22. 30 years ago when I met Dr. DeMartini. So if you like never watch anything again and you quit and you're like, but I like this part, you can go buy his book or whatever. I'm giving you a little condensed something of one of his books. I'm going to give you little condensed pieces and bring a bunch of things together. So what matters here is not figuring out your current values. Like this is like figuring out where are you on the map. So then you can decide. What I hope most of you are going to realize is I love my map. Like, why was I thinking where I am is terrible? Like, where I am is awesome. And I'm actually really good at what I do here. And oh, I also want this. Instead of making myself wrong for not knowing how to get there, of course I didn't know how to get there because I haven't been paying attention to it. So I could learn to pay attention to it. I just can change the value a little bit. So I'm going to make this all make sense over time, but we're going to do the homework first, right? This is where what matters when you do this exercise, okay? The most important thing is I don't want you to think about what you think you should value. I need to see how you really are. I want to see what you really care about. You need to see, right? I want to see you. I don't really need to know any of this information. You need yourself to want the facts and not the fantasy, right? We need to help you see what your life actually demonstrates right in front of you, not what you fantasize or want the world to think you are. Many of us wear a mask of trying to project an image to the world of how we want them to think we are, what we think we care about. But that doesn't always work out that way. We consider those people inauthentic, incongruent, out of integrity. This is where it's like the nature is like you walk the talk or you don't. It shows up. So let's start with telling the truth about what we value by asking ourselves these questions. So these are the questions that we're going to ask. It's going to be 13 things. I will have them. I can copy and paste the short list at the end. I'll give this written list to you guys at some point. Okay. What I want to know, it's going to be like 3 answers for each question. So when you write these, don't answer right now. I'm just going to bang them out and explain them to you. And again, you'll have a recording. Just list 3 things, like go with the top 3. So otherwise you could take 10 days to do this, right? Number 1, what do we fill your space with? How do you fill your most intimate and individual space? Like the personal objects and things around, like the people, places, people and things, right? If it's not valuable to you, you won't let it into your space. I'm going to explain something about space. So we have proximity, like I'm talking real proximity. So my intimate space is right next to me to 1.5 feet, right? So the people I let right here are really close. That means I'm touching them and hugging them and kissing them and in bed with them. Like that's your most intimate space, right? Like, so what is around? I'm going to tell you, my phone is a thing that's in my intimate space a lot. My laptop is in my intimate space a lot. Be honest with what are the people? Chip was in my intimate space a lot. Think about it. Think about these things. Now, these you probably have 3 objects, 3 people, my dog. What's around you the most? What do you keep? People are like, my phone never leaves me. My this. Think about what are the things and the people that are right there. Then you have personal space up to 4 feet. Then you have your social distance about 12 feet. And then you have public space 12 feet and further. There are just some people I don't let into my space. Like they can't get there, right? So what do you keep in your most intimate to personal space? What are the 3 most consistent objects or people that you keep in that space? Ask yourself of those 3 items that you see, what is the absolute most dominant use of that thing? Okay. So for me, a phone. I spend a lot of time in a lot of intimate space and time with my phone. What am I doing on the phone? I have to ask myself. Okay, what I do on this phone most of the time, I manage my company. I film videos for work. I talk to my love, right? So connection is a big one with loved ones. So those are the 3 most dominant uses that I do. That is absolutely what I do. The number 2 thing in my personal space is my laptop. The 3 main things that I do on this laptop, it's slightly different than my phone. I write and research, I see patients, and I create courses and content. I'm finding out what are the 3 most important things, and then what are the 3 uses of those things. All right. Then what's the 3rd thing in my space that I'm most intimate with? It's my dog right now, right? And the 3 dominant uses of Axel, he fulfills my caretaking need. He gives me affection. And there's also laughter. Those are really like what I get from my dog. So looking at your space and the answers, I'm going to give, I'm not going to give you examples on everything, but that's what I want you to do, right? You're going to see the top 3 values are starting to form. You can already see some of my top values right there. Oh, for me, as I go through this, the theme is always teaching, researching, connection, talking to a lover, caretaking Axel. That all helps me see that what I do. All right. So number 2, I'm not going to spend that long on everyone, but that's what I'm trying to do. Top 3 things. What are the 3 uses of the thing? What needs are they fulfilling for you? What do you do? How do you spend your time? This is, what do you spend more hours doing every day? What are the top 3 things? My time is definitely spent creating, creating and teaching, researching, writing, connecting either on social media, phone, groups, or courses. I create content, I research and write, I connect. Okay. That's what all my time is spent doing. Okay. 3, what energizes you? What do you do that maximizes your energy? And what do you do that you always have energy for? Okay. Now pick 3 things. And this is the truth, not what you wish you had energy to do. Don't tell me you have energy to work out and you've been to the gym 6 months ago. Okay. I want actually what you're doing, not what you're wishing for. We're trying to help you see what you actually value. And you might go, I say, this is something I want people to say, oh, I wish I saw my mom more. I'm like, no, you don't. When patients will say this to me, I'm like, if you wanted to see your mom more, you would see your mom more. So you don't. So stop lying to yourself. Unless they were locked in prison or something, there's some kind of real big bad reason. But I'm like, why don't you? And those are just excuses. If you actually wanted to see your family more, you would make it happen. Seeing your family isn't one of your top 3 values. So this is what you're doing. What we're doing here is finding out what you prioritize in life. And we're letting you see it, what's important. If someone walks in my house, they would very clearly see, clearly she prioritizes art because my house is loaded with it. And I have art shoved in closets and paintings everywhere. And I'm overloaded. I don't have wall space. Not everybody values art. I do. So you would see it because you walk in my house like, oh, wow, she values it. You can tell what someone values, right? Number 4, what do you spend your money on? The top 3 things you always find money for. Some people sure don't have money to go pay for labs, but they always have money to go to the bar. So what you actually spend your money on. Oh, I don't have it, but they always are getting, if you value health, beauty, you'll spend your money on there. If you value books, you'll spend your money and sometimes I had to learn that I was spending too much money on books at one point. I'm like, I can't keep spending all my value, can't be educating myself. It's actually stopping me. So sometimes it's like working against you, just so you know. 5, where are you most organized and ordered? So whatever you value, you're going to put care into keeping it organized and neat, right? That's what you really care about. You keep it nice. I can walk into some your houses and boy, your supplements are just all perfectly organized, but your work stuff is thrown over there, whatever, or your kids' schedule, boy, you put hours in it. It's so gorgeous, but your closet's a mess. So your kids are organized, but you're not. So you just look at what the truth is. 6, where are you most disciplined and reliable? This is just looking at what are the things nobody needs to tell you to do? You're going to do them no matter what. It doesn't matter. You don't need a post-it note. You don't need a reminder. Nobody has to tell you to do that thing. It's just automatic and you like to do it, so you're always going to do it. Some people are incredibly inspired by, disciplined by, and energized by going to the gym. So waking up at 4:30 every day, they've been doing it for 20 years. Nobody has to remind them. They don't need a motivator. Other people, that's cooking for their children, right? You might be an incredibly disciplined and reliable mother. You might be an incredible homemaker, but you aren't even seeing it, right? I want you to start seeing how good you are at what you're good at. 7, what do you think about? What are the big things you think about and why do you think about them? Think about that. 8, what do you visualize when you eat, whether it's you do it on purpose or it's like daydreaming? 9, what do you have an internal dialogue about most? Again, these are always the top 3 things and what's their function. You'll start to see these patterns and some of these will go faster. What do you want to converse with other people about the most? I can't stand talking about food. But boy, do I get lit up about certain topics. Like had 3 interviews this last 10 days and I was like, and I had one of the doctors point out, she goes, look at you. She goes, you love this. You do working. You love talking about this. I'm like, you're right. You're right, Amy. I'm like, okay, she just needs less hours right now because it's just wearing you out, but you still love this. It makes you come alive. I'm like, you're right. I do love it. So think about that. What naturally happens where you just feel energized in the conversation versus what's draining you. And you might have to be talking about things that you don't actually enjoy. It might be a part of your job, might be a part of your daily living. So think about that. 11, what inspires you the most? 3, what are your 3 most consistent goals? And what do you love to learn about? So when you do this homework, lots of things will come up for you. Like again, and I'm overestimating 2 to 3 hours. It could take that long because, and you might, I think you're going to have fun with it. This should be fun. You'd be like, I never thought of that. So I'll end it with this little story and then we can see if there's any questions to clarify. What was number 10?
What do I want to discuss with others the most about?
We talk about the most. So I had a patient that she was always so convinced. She was a doctor and wasn't doing well financially. Practice was just mediocre. And she just was like really beating herself up about how unsuccessful she was. And so I was like, and I'm looking at her like she has this incredible marriage, great kids. I think she was like their basketball coach and they had a lot of vacations. They just seemed to have so much quality time and they just were the loveliest people. Like it was, I'm like, what are you talking about? And she had been through a hell of a trauma story as a child, like to the point I'm like, I'm in awe of you for even like, how are you so normal? You're incredible. What are you talking about? So I was just there to clean up a little bit of something in her neurology and I think reflect back to her how great she was doing. But she was she was a failure because her father had been a super wealthy physician. And so in her standard, she didn't meet the bar on the family expectation of how much money she should have been making. But of course, so I said, okay, so I had to figure that out. Who is she comparing herself to? She was comparing herself to her father. And her only metric of value she was using was income, wealth building. Income is actually and wealth building are 2 different values, but let's just say income and finance, work and finance. Okay. Chip had a very high value on work and finance. It was one of his top values. It was his number 1, work and finance. So I get it. So she's here. Her father's number 1 value was work and finance. And that was the most important. So she was latching onto his value and then judging herself based upon this was not her top value. So when we did this exercise and I worked with her, I pointed out, tell me all the places where you're successful. And she was like, you don't understand. I just told you I'm not successful. I'm like, and I took a while to get her away from, we're not talking about money. Let's talk about your husband. Let's talk about your marriage. Let's talk about your kids. Let's talk about your health. Let's talk about your community service. Let's talk about blah, blah, how you overcome. You're not a drug addict, an alcoholic. Your mother, like her mother had killed herself because of the trauma. I don't even want to get into it. It was a religious sex cult, which she was able to escape. It was insane. Okay. So father, I don't know, 4 or 5 marriages. It was another insane number, wasn't together, and they were estranged in a good way because she didn't need to be around him. So I was like, wait, what? And so this guy didn't even have an impact in her life. And yet she was still judging herself based upon that value, which wasn't hers. So as we went through and she was pointing out what an incredible marriage she had, been married 30 years. He was the love of her life. And they really worked on, like, how did you guys, and they found each other 17. I'm like, how did that happen? Can you explain this to me? So I was trying to explain, like, do you see how incredible you are? Like how, that most people, I'm like, I'm still over here. I haven't done it or whatever. Like I'm trying to point out, she was like, oh my God. So by the time we got done, she realized her number 1 value was family. And when she realized that, she was like, I'm like, are you winning? She says, I've won the lotto. I'm like the Grandmaster Gold Champion. I'm like, yes, you're an Olympic gold medalist in this value. What are you talking about? And then when we figured them out for her. Finance was not in her top 3 values. So I said, okay. So the point was so she could see I'm already successful. Exactly. You have three different values. You just are thinking you're supposed to have this as a value. Now, do we want to move work and finance up in your value system because it's making you feel afraid? And it turned out she didn't even want to move the value because she had plenty of money. The husband had money, like they were fine. It was like she just let herself off the hook. I'm like, you're in profit, right? Yeah, like, what's the big deal? So that's what I'm looking for you to do. So you're going to find out what your values are, and you're going to end up seeing, oh my God, I'm super good at it. So in the last cohort, Carol is somebody who took that cohort, and she doesn't, she never worked out. She never liked it, blah, blah, blah. She is spontaneously going to the gym, totally different behaviors. I think she's about 60 or 58 or something like that. And she's been talking about how she's like, you have no idea how you changed my life and about all these different things. And I hope she takes this course again and she can understand we changed her value system. She did change her value system, and she linked health and fitness to safety, which she had never done before. So my job so once we figure out what your values are, we're going to help you link things up. So you might realize making money or income isn't even a part of it, but we can change things and link things. So I often have, say a man, let me give you, this is a great example. So many men in my office come in overweight, all out of shape, sickly, pre-diabetic or whatever, even cancer. It can be real bad. It's, oh gosh. Married with kids, incredible husbands, incredible fathers. Their number one priority, and for many men, their number one value, and priority just means value. What's their number one priority? It's their number one value. What's the most important? The thing you prioritize the most is your highest value. Mine used to be health, then it was freedom as a child. And these, I'll leak it a little bit. We're going to get into this more. These values and priorities have stemmed from the voids you had in your childhood. So what was lacking and missing, you created as a priority to fill. And that became your value. I was born sickly, almost died with a bar between my legs and couldn't walk and turn over. So health and freedom became very strong motivator. And my father was in prison. You think freedom might be a big deal for me? It kept love away from me, however. So why I finally found Chip, it was how that happened, because I shifted my value. I put love above freedom for the first time in my life. That's what happened. I changed. Okay. So it's really important you know what those top three values are. And if your spouses want to do this too, I think that's incredible. It can be incredible conversations, incredible connection, chance to understand, be like, look at how much no wonder we're winning in this area. Or no wonder we struggle in this area because their values are so different. So anyway, go back to the men. Wealth, income, and finance. It's like hunting and bringing home food to him. So he thinks this is the way I'm a good husband, the way I'm a good father is I have to work and make money. They just say, what are you talking about? But the wife is over here. He doesn't have time with me. He doesn't care about me. That the message is not the same. No, he does. He's like, but what are you talking about? I care about her more than anything in the world. I would die for her. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. She don't want you dying. This is the problem. So my job is to connect him giving a damn about his body and what he's eating and what he's doing so he can see that it's in his number one value. Let's say like number one or number two is protecting my family. And so money is what's there to him. I'm like, so now if I say, I need you to be strong and fit so you can pick your kids up and run them out of a fire. If I can make the connection, then he's, oh, I never thought of it like that. So I completely changed his behaviors naturally because I've turned working out and getting muscle as connected to either making more money or protecting the family. If I can connect it to that value, you'll be a better performer, make more money. Oh, okay. You'll be a better father, you can protect them more. Oh, with men, I often tell them to make their penis bigger and harder and they'll do almost anything. And I'm not kidding. I have to connect the behavior to their value. I don't always have to change the values. Sometimes we do have to change the values. If you say, so we'll get to that part, but it's all about that. So that's the homework and that's the why. And we'll get to that. Why some people are on their phones so much doing this. Connection really is one of their top values, and they don't know any other way to do it except that. Now, some people, it's entertainment. Entertainment might be a topic. I have every week laid out what we're going to do. We'll talk about, we'll do an exercise. This is the bigger one because, and it might be a very new concept. I think people's lives would be this is what I'll say. Why I'm talking about it, and I didn't talk about this in the last courses explicitly. I've been asked a lot, why how do you think you knew you could buck the system so young? What was it that happened? I go, I don't think anything happened. I'm like, I just think somehow, some way, I don't take credit for it. Some gift of something. This soul that came through this little avatar in this time just did not struggle to listen to the soul. I just, at 2 and 3, I just knew what I knew. I didn't care what adults told me. I didn't care about arguing. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need to please them. I just, if I didn't, no, I don't, just no. Or yes, I don't, yeah, let's go. I just always knew what was true to me. And it didn't mean I wouldn't falter and have some learning, but my system, I feel like this authenticity that people will see in me or what, that it's simply because I've let my soul drive me. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't understand it. I just didn't fight it. And now I know what the terms are. I understand the thing and I talk about it. Now, what I did now, I had my conflicts with religion and spirituality and all kinds of deep turmoil in childhood and doing all kinds of things, exploring. And I've studied religions for decades, and there was always being drawn into it and writing poetry about it. And there was stuff, but that's what it is. It's, I would listen to my knowing, to my body, and I followed. If I didn't want to do it, I wasn't doing it. It didn't, I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. I'm not doing it. I let it feels good. That must mean I'm born to do it. Why? She's like a little boy. She plays ball. I like ball. I don't like dolls. I'm not doing it. And luckily, I had a mother that never bought me brooms or vacuums or never made me do who I wasn't going to be. She'd never, ever tried any of it. Never made me cook, never made me do it. Just, oh, Stephanie doesn't do all that. Let her go watch football. I was just saying, let her watch football with the boys. That's what she does. She didn't make me do it. She didn't force me to be what I wasn't. So luckily I had that. But I'm just saying that's all it is. And I think the people who get hit with it the most are the fawn response trauma people pleasers. Like it really is, it's a struggle bus for that group of people. And it takes a little bit longer to unlock this, but you know what your values are by what you do. My sister, incredible human, if you watch this, she does not value work and finance. Never did. She wanted to be a housewife, raise children, and have a white picket fence. She knew it very young. That's what she wanted to be a mother. And it's still her highest value. Nothing wrong with that. So sometimes you would say that stuff to me. I'm like, Kim, what are you talking about? You're like super successful at what you care about. Now, we live in a world you need money, so let's figure that out for you, but you don't have to be me. So what she saw as the oldest, the biggest void in her life was family structure. I was 8 years later, it was different. She watched her daddy go to prison. I didn't. He just was gone. You understand? We saw different things. And so she just wanted a house with the light bill always paid and always food, and she could be home and have a husband that was home. They didn't go to prison. You see the difference? I watched a mother who was alone, independent, right? So I adopted a different thing than my sister did on what we've lacked the most and what values, what we thought we needed to do to be to fill that void. And as you fill voids over your life, the values will change, right? Because a 10-year-old is not going to have the same value as a 16-year-old, and a 16-year-old's values are not a 26-year-old, and they shouldn't be. And a 50-year-old's values are probably different than when you were 26. But some things are tried and true. Health is, and I'm in a place I'm questioning if health is even in my highest values anymore for the first time in my life. So I'm going through this process, and as things have changed, like big events can change things. So I suggest this is an exercise you do at least once a year. Every quarter could be incredible, right? Something, but at least once a year. All right.
Dr. Rimka, I just have one question.
Yeah.
Can you just give your words example to number 9 about the internal dialogue?
Oh, things you like that you talk about?
It says, what do you
What
have
I
an
tried
internal
to.
dialogue about most?
Screw it, I'll just do it right now from what I internally dialogue about all the time I is Chip. So what does that represent? Love and connection and work and finance. Chip and I work together, and I love work and finance, right? So I have a lot of internal dialogues about stuff we did or stuff we're gonna, that kind of thing. So let's say before this whole weird situation, I have a lot of internal dialogue about courses, about health topics. I talk to myself all the time about, peptide content, believe it or not. I really do think about content, and I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder if I should. I talk out loud too to myself all the time. And I even practice performing speeches and stuff. I'll have whole conversations as if I'm doing it. And they're work related. They're usually work, health, stuff like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any clarifying questions so you understand? If you're having it, please don't be afraid to ask, because somebody else probably does too. Everybody's afraid to ask questions sometimes because I don't want to look stupid, but I'd rather you know how to do it.
So we are answering these questions to ourselves. We're not posting them anywhere. We're just answering them to
Right
ourselves.
now, you're just writing it all down.
Okay.
Yep, you're writing it down. And if you get stuck, I would love you to talk in the chat to each other and offer to help each other. That could have been the question. I missed that. I don't really understand it. Can somebody give me an example of your internal dialogue? That's totally fine to do in the chat. Yeah, for me, it's blah, 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 blah. Sometimes I do when like when you're driving, if you're going a long ride, I swear to God, I have entire books I could write. I sometimes I wish my mind could just have the whole thing just come out. I've had entire books download on a 10-hour drive. You don't want to really talk for 10 hours into your phone. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that. Have you ever had that? Those are internal dialogues. And there's going to be a topic that's very consistent. These same kinds of things you do. So you need to write it down. We need to figure out what it is you're really spending your time doing. What is the value system? What's actually going on? That's why we're doing it. And then we'll work on it together. Like some of you, it'll be really obvious what the trends are. You're going to notice trends. You're going to notice it. You're like, there it is. I clearly value looking beautiful more than I value like saving money. Duh. No wonder I don't have any money. Because that's what I value. It's right in front of my face. I can act like I don't. Whatever. There it is. And so then we're going to learn how to make that winning for you. Okay. We will discuss these things. We will discuss your list. We will good, but it's not so important that you share any of that. It's more you learning, these are my 3 values. We can do a little bit of coaching, but most of you will be able to see this yourself. You don't need to be processed to see it. You just have to look at what's the reality. I feel like the first few really get it done, but sometimes there's certain situations we need all of them to be like, oh, okay. Because we're looking for the top 3 values. Many of your other values will be revealed, but I want the things that are prioritized the most. Whatever you spend all your time and money and is around you, that's what you value the most. Learning to discipline your mind is not easy. It's just not. But the values, self-determination, is a step I skipped the last time. And I was changing and helping them find their values. When I saw it at the end, I'm like, oh, I never really explained it. I should have explained that better. I'm going to explain it now. And we're going to do a whole thing. And this in and of itself, even if you did this, I think it will change a lot of things about what you're doing. Imagine if people did this with their 10-year-olds, their 16-year-olds. You might be stunned to find out what they really value. And for them to really see what they value. So sometimes we look at behavior and we don't understand what's driving it. Like for some, it's like the workaholic guy, but it's coming from, I must protect my family. And he just thinks that's the only, he doesn't know that there's another way. And all I have to do is, you have to just teach that. It's like, oh, I just have to hook connection with pleasing your wife, with connecting with time, protects her. He's, oh, then I can, and he's, then I'm gonna do it. I didn't know. I didn't understand. That was how it was. You know what I mean? So that's all you usually have to do is make a connection for people. They have to see it themselves. Oh my gosh, I never would have thought of it that way. Yeah. So I don't have to change that he works a lot, but I just create another thing, another behavior. So she's happy too. And he knows she feels unsafe. And he's what? And as soon as I say that, and then they're like, that's the last thing he wanted, but he didn't understand that's all it is. Right? So that's what I understand. So that way, you guys, some of your behaviors are maybe not getting you what you want, and you don't. So some of your values are going to change, or at least your awareness of it. You're going to go, oh, that's what I'm valuing, but the behavior is not actually. It's coming from that. A lot of people do things because it's like distracting and dissociating and numbing because they can't handle the thing. There's all kinds of other things. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. All right. Okay, cool. I'll let you guys go. We went way too long. I wouldn't normally, but this is an interesting, bigger topic. We look at that. Okay.